All right, welcome back to Chicago Hockey Radio. Justin Lynch, Raven Gasser, Tassos Kirkos, producer Spencer in the house. First day back. Blackhawks opening game. They lose their season opener 5-2 to the Utah Hockey Club. We're going to get into that. Thanks to everybody that tuned in to the CHR postgame show last night. They were up late with me and Justin. No Lee Grossman today. Lee will be back on Friday. Two other games are on the NHL, 5 more tonight on the board. And how are we feeling today, Justin? Post, now you got some sleep to think about the Hawks game. How are we feeling?
Well, I got some sleep. I mean, it was definitely a rough day to be in Ohio in the Eastern time zone. I think I fell asleep at 2:33 or something. I mean, I don't know about you, like when after a game, sometimes you're kind of wired up, so it takes some time to fall asleep. And that was definitely how I felt last night. But I'd say the sleep I did get was pretty good. Sometimes it's not the amount you get, but how good that sleep was. But yeah, I think upon reflection, I'm feeling honestly, maybe I'm being too positive, but I'm feeling even more positive than I think I was last night, which not that I was totally positive. I thought, wow, there's some negatives from last night's game. It's easy to be negative after a 5-2 opening loss. I think there's a lot of good things to take away from that game. I think we saw a lot of promise. I think the Blackhawks team got better as the game wore along, which is what you want to see. They show a lot of heart. They show a lot of fight. When you're a rebuilding team, that's what you want to see, right? You want to be in the games. They were in that game. It wasn't that way to start. I mean, that first period was absolute dog shit. But I think after that second, third periods, as we mentioned in the post-game shows, I thought we controlled the game. We were the better team. So I think get a few bouts to go your way, get a few of those pipes to go in, and that's a totally different game. I think the power play as well, we'll definitely expand on that more today in terms of what a better power play could look like, particularly for the second unit, because I do not want to see that second unit on the ice like that again. That was brutal. And there's better options. There's better players we can have there, but I'll talk about that later. But no, overall, I think feeling pretty good. And yeah, I'm mad that we have to wait until Friday for the game too. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, you get a couple days off. I'm glad they didn't start with like a back-to-back. Get a couple days in between. Also Carter Verhaeghe extension, Linus Ullmark extension, and Joey Daccord extension. We'll get to that in our NHL hour of Chicago Hockey Radio. But we could talk about the game a little bit. I know you weren't thrilled with the power play. A lot of people were not thrilled with the power play. You and I talked a little bit last night about the start. And just the fact that the Hawks came out really flat. And, I don't know what was said with Luke Richardson and the rest of the team in between the first and the second period, but it did look like a completely different hockey team from 20 minutes to 20 minutes.
Like he had the Herb Brooks miracle speech in between players, in between periods there.
Who
are we playing? Utah. We're playing Utah.
I saw
Opening
a clip
game.
of that today, this morning on Instagram. We'll be playing Sweden. Like, oh, you're treating this like it's a throwaway game up in Rochester.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I saw that clip today. I don't know. The start was so bad, and I don't know if it was, just because Utah came out so firing that the Hawks just by comparison looked not as energized to play that hockey game yesterday.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was entirely it. But yeah, no, it was a tough game. I didn't really think that the Hawks sustained pressure for too long. There were a few brief moments of like, okay, now this team is going. But the actual stretch of, even 5 minutes worth of dominance was kind of hard to come by in that one yesterday. Lee mentioned... Oh shoot! What was I going to mention? I did want to talk about the power play, but I didn't want to get into it yet. Oh, this part that Lee brought up, the fact that it just seems like with the Hawks that the more we look at this roster and these pieces, that it just seems like it's kind of thrown together a little bit.
Yeah.
And
it does feel a little like mixed up and like players that don't really like fit with each other. The chemistry's not there, and it takes time to build that. But when you add in so much new pieces, it's a totally different team. Like it does look a little out of place at times. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. I think Bertuzzi's a really good fit, but last night he didn't look like it. I think some of these pieces are good fits. I think Taylor Hall fits in really well with the team. I think Teravainen obviously fits in really well with the team. But it's like learning your role in that and then executing that role the way that you need to is an entirely different thing. And then just like gelling with your teammates and, I said it on the morning show, but like that Utah squad has been largely playing together and growing as a core for the last handful of years, right?
And it's not that changed. Like it's a pretty similar team, and you got Sergachev have some additions, but and that's largely the same team as Arizona
Yeah.
Coyotes were last year. So of course they're already going to have some of that camaraderie. They don't have to build that. And I think what you mentioned is a good point. Like yes, we got the slow start, but this was literally the first ever game for this franchise. Like they came out with nothing to lose. They had all the motivation in the world. And I think the Hawks even kind of knew that going into the game. Like we just got to get through that first period, right? I think it was a little worse than they probably would have liked, but honestly, I mean, they were still in the game and they still made a game after that. I think once some of that initial steam wore off, I think the game settled down. I thought we controlled it, to be honest. But I know the scoreboard doesn't show that, but that's the way it goes sometimes.
Did you end up having any more thoughts on Nolan Allen? Did you think about his debut a little bit more? I thought he was pretty good, but did you,
Yeah, I mean, he did play a ton, about 10 minutes in third pair role. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he didn't really make any crucial mistakes to my part. I mean, he seemed just really calm, composed, and solid. I think with Murphy, that was a pretty decent third pair. Definitely a much better third pair than we saw last season with Tenorti Zaitsev. So yeah, I thought he was pretty solid. I think if he keeps playing like that, he'll probably stay up here because he's definitely a guy I look at like when he made the team, like how long is he actually going to be here? Like, is he going to be on this team the whole season? And he might not. He might get set down at some point. When Kaiser gets back, he's not going to be playing every day, right? But I mean, if he keeps playing like that, he could be a regular on this team for sure.
yeah, I thought he was good. I think it's good to give these kids games. Like
Yes,
Martinez and Brody were not good yesterday. Not together, not
absolutely
separate.
atrocious. Yeah.
Like, they just weren't good. So, and I saw somebody DM us being like, oh, like, why are you guys banging so hard for Isaac Phillips? It's not even
I'd rather see him than one of those two.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that's my point is like, no, maybe it's not Isaac Phillips, but insert Blackhawks defensive prospect here that you'd like to see getting minutes ahead of.
Ethan Del Mastro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Louis Crevier.
Yeah,
Kevin maybe not Korchinski now, but
well,
like
yeah,
there's so many
Korchinski.
guys. Even him, I'd rather see him be making those mistakes than these two washed vets who aren't going to be here for the future.
I
It's
think I
like
told you in the summer, I was like, oh, if Artem Levshinov signs out of Michigan, like if he leaves Michigan State, he should be playing in the
I
NHL.
would love to know, like, if he doesn't get hurt, like, is he on this team right now? Like, I think it's
Maybe.
possible. I mean, I always assumed he'd be nice. I think he will be, but like, maybe if he doesn't, he's there the training camp, he's there the preseason, like, and he impresses enough. I mean, he could have been on this team right now. Yeah.
Can you believe that there's only two 2024 NHL draft picks on opening night rosters?
Yeah, so what is that? Celebrini and is it like someone random like Jet Luchenko?
It's Jet Luchenko
Yes,
with the
Jet
Philadelphia
Luchenko.
Flyers.
And
Yeah.
I remember people were like, look at that draft pick. Like, I want to say people were confused by it, but I think some people thought it was a reach. But like, if he's one or two players, including Macklin Celebrini, to make opening right
Yeah.
roster, I think that shows they probably made the right decision there.
I think Levshinov could have been the third guy too.
Yeah,
Like if
I mean,
it
a lot of
was,
scouts said he was the most ready NHL player.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I didn't think Martinez and Brody were particularly good.
Especially Brody. I was looking at like
Yeah.
not that I'm a big advanced stats guy, but I was looking at some stat cards and like he had like the lowest on the team in terms of impact. I mean, it's awful. His defensive, like the baller is just all the way to the left. It's pretty brutal. That Bedsy had the best analytical impact. Not surprising.
So let's talk about Bedard first, and then we'll get into the power play a little bit. But I didn't. I said this yesterday in the postgame show. I didn't think Bedard was great for the first half of the game.
Yeah,
And
no,
then
first half he was
yeah.
rough.
And then he turned it up though.
Yes. You see that a lot of Bedard. I mean, not to keep comparing to Patrick Kane, but I'll keep comparing to Patrick Kane. He was a lot like that, right? Like he'd go through kind of stretches throughout the games, whatever, where you don't really see him that much. Like he's not really feeling it. The teams can kind of shut him down. But once he gets going and gets that confidence, it's hard to stop that guy. And when Bedard gets confident, watch out because he'll do things that other players wouldn't even think of doing. Like he attempted the Michigan last night. We talked about that and almost
Yeah.
pulled it off. He had 2 assists. I will say on the first goal, I don't know how I missed this, but after watching the highlights again, I gotta give props to Sergachev here. I mean, it was brutal defense in his part, but he could have absolutely laid out Bedard on that first goal. I mean, Seth Jones gave him a suicide pass, but Sergachev could have laid him out, but he didn't. Bedard got by him and then gave it to Tavo, and then we saw the sweet backhand goal that he had. But that could have been a rough. So good props to Sergachev there for I don't know cutting my break, I guess. And then the second, he had an assist too in the third. to Vlasic. Good to see Vlasic get more involved offensively. I touched on this, before. I want to see kind of more from his offensive game this year. We've seen what he can do defensively. But yeah, nice shot on goal. Foligno with a good tip got us in the game, and we almost came back. Bertuzzi had a post late, a lot of posts in that game. But no, I think a lot of good things to see. Happy at Betsy's game. I thought he played well the second half. First half was a bit rough, to be honest. He
Yeah.
had some looks that in some just bad plays. She could have shot the puck a few times, but passed it. But then once he started shooting, I think he had 5 shots in the game, which is like that's what you want to see from Bedard. If he's putting up 5 shots in a game, 2 assists, like +1, that's good. You like to see that.
Can I ask you a fun Bedard question?
Sure.
So not pertaining to the game at all, but I was watching Real Kipper and Born yesterday, and they were talking about the ceiling for Connor Bedard and Nick Kyprios,
Like this year or career?
career.
Okay.
And Nick Kyprios essentially said that with the amount of hype that Connor Bedard has and the air around him and the talk around him, that the bar for Connor Bedard's success should be Sidney Crosby.
The bar, like the
that,
highest or the minimum.
Or like I guess they were talking and the discussion was, okay, well, at the end of this year, Connor Bedard's going to be considered a top 10 player in the National Hockey League, which
see that.
I don't think is a stretch. Yeah, I don't.
No,
I don't
that's
think
not
that's
a stretch at all. He puts up 100+ points, which I think he can.
But
And
is
this
that
Blackhawks
enough?
team,
Is that enough? Like, is being a top 10 guy enough, or does the list need to be like in some order: McKinnon, McDavid, Matthews, Bedard, Makar?
Well, I think context matters to me. It's easy to compare him to Crosby, but it's like the Penguins are in a much different situation in their second season than we are now. I know we were both fast our rookie years, so I guess maybe that's where he's getting that comparison. And Crosby's obviously his idol and all that. They compare him to Crosby a lot, but I think in terms, I mean, if he's not as good as Sidney Crosby in his career, I don't think you could consider that a failure. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. Crosby's a top 5 player of all time. I think I would put him somewhere between. I think worst case scenario, which just speaks to how good I think he's going to be. Worst case, I think he'll be as good as Patrick Kane. Worst case, I think best case he could be better than Crosby, but I don't know. That's saying a lot. Even I'm the biggest Bedard Glazer there is, and I don't even know if he can be better than Crosby. I think he'll be probably somewhere between there if I had to guess. I think he's going to be the best player in this game one day. I don't know if he's ever going to be as good as McDavid. I don't think anybody's going to be as good as McDavid. He's in his own realm, but I think once he's older and this team gets better, I think he will be the top player in this game for a long time and win a lot of awards.
I think
hopefully cups. Yeah,
it's
and
just
he'll be
the
up
amount
there,
of
top 10.
fanfare.
Yeah.
The amount of fanfare that was brought in with Bedard was probably only matched by Crosby and McDavid.
Well, the social media landscape's so different now too, where it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been the same way for those two, but different era, right? Yeah, in terms of Bedard, I mean, if he's a top 10 player in the second season, I think you can't complain about that. I mean, even if he's not winning a Hart like Crosby, I think different situations of these teams, right? So I think you can't really compare. Yeah.
Yeah. But and then they brought this up when they were talking about it. Like, can Bedard physically impact a game the way Sidney Crosby does too? Like what does that play away from the puck eventually look
Well, I'd
like?
say first game, the season, but I thought he already looks quite a bit better in some of those areas. I mean, faceoffs, he was actually really good last night. I think he was 9 for 16. That was an area he struggled with last year. Defensively, I didn't really notice any errors there. So he definitely struggled defensively last year. But I mean, on that Blackhawks team, I think that's understandable. But I think he can be a good center one day. I think we'll see that. I think as this Hawks team gets better, he'll get better in that regard. I mean, Crosby, I don't know if he started off as a good two-way player, but he became one of the best two-way players in the game. I think Crosby or Bedard can hopefully do that too. I'm not saying he's going to win any Selkies or anything. I don't think that's really his game. I've said it sometimes. I think he's more of a natural winger that plays as center, but I think he could be effective in that realm as well. And he's not afraid to be physical. You don't really want him to see him be physical, but he's not afraid to do it if he needs to be, which is something good to see. He's a very feisty player. I think offensively he can actually be more effective than Crosby. I think it's just those other areas of the game, right?
Sidney Crosby topped out at 120 points.
I think Bedard can easily eclipse that. Easily.
Yeah.
I think Bedsy could be putting up 130+ points, but I think, and also like, what's he going to be as a leader? I do think he's going to be captain of the Sox team one day, probably 2 years from now. And like, can he be as effective as a leader as Crosby? That's another question. Will the Sox team win 3 cups like the Penguins? I don't know. So we'll see. I think he can. To answer your question, I think he can. It's a tough ask. It's saying a lot, but I think he could do it. Yeah.
All right, we can go back to the game now. They were talking about that yesterday, and I thought it was a fun kind of thought exercise. So back to the game though, the power play I think is what everybody was, at least everybody in the comment section of the post game show last night. That's what everybody was bugged about.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about the second unit not even looking much like a unit at all. You know, we talked about the slow zone entries from the first unit, and you know, I don't know. I know you wanted to like mock up some different looking second units and how we could do this. But you know, you got some words on the power play, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the first unit, I think you got to have, if you're going to split up Bedard and Kurashev even strength, fine. I get it. Kind of spreading the wealth a bit. Kane, Tays always play together even strength, and that worked out fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes put together late in the game, like they did in the game last night. Like things weren't going well, so Richardson made some adjustments, got Betsy Kurashev a few shifts together. You make adjustments during games, whatever. You know, sometimes late in the game you're down. You present the nuclear option, right? You see that the Oilers sometimes they put McDavid and Drysdale together, but I think even strength, fine. Split them up. You cannot split up Bedard and Kurashev on the power play. Those two is where they work most of their magic. I've said it many times. They're really good on the power play, the chemistry, the cross-ice seam passes. We see that a ton. Kane to Brinkett were always good with that. They still are in Detroit. I think you got to have those two together power play. The question becomes, who do you bump down? But I look at this now, I think the second unit, well, we talked about how atrocious that was. But I think if you want to get Bedard and Kurashev together power play, you got to bump down one of those guys. I'd say probably Taylor Hall if you have to bump down somebody. You probably want to keep Tavo and Burt on that first unit with Bedsy, and then Jones as the quarterback. I mean, I don't love him that spot, but like who else on his defense is going to fill that role? Nobody. So Seth's still there. But I think second unit, this needs to be majorly adjusted because this is not a power play unit. I think there are a lot of guys on this team that can be better placed here. I think Foligno, Dickinson. I know they're on the penalty kill, so maybe they don't want him on the power play as well. But I mean, last year they played plenty of the power play. I'd rather see those two than Maroon, Smith. So I think you can put Foligno, Dickinson there. Dickinson's going to face off, so you can get that possession going. Foligno's good in kind of that net front role, and then Kurashev's on the first unit. Now we got Hall down here. And defense, I'd have Vlasic. I'd have Vlasic quarterback in the second unit. I think he has a lot of potential to his offensive game. I think put him in that position, right? I think put Vlasic as the quarterback in the power play. And the last stuff forward, I think either one of Reichel or Athanasiou. I mean, say what you will about those guys. They have a lot of offensive talent, a lot of speed, which is what you want, especially when you're entering the zone, the power play. Yep. Have those two cycle into each other. And boom, that solves that problem. So I think that would be a better second unit. Still not great, but better than whatever this is. I think the first unit with Kurashev up there, that would make Bedard's life a lot better. So yeah, I think that would be a better first unit as well. But that's how I would fix the power play. I'm not Richardson. I like Richardson, but I've said it many times. Don't always agree with some of his decisions of line combinations, and especially these power play units need a lot of work. So yeah.
Do you think the Blackhawks would ever consider two defensemen on the power play?
Well, it's just with this team, it's like, I don't know, like who's the other defenseman you're going to have? Like, I guess Martinez, he can be good offensively, so maybe you could have him.
Like,
but
what if you had Vlasic and Jones on the top power play unit?
I wouldn't have two defensemen. I don't know if it really works with the Hawks system. I'd rather have Jones on one, Vlasic on the other. I don't think I'd have them both together. Maybe
I'm
the
just
second
trying to
unit.
figure out a way you could like spread the love a little bit more, because then you could take Taylor Hall
Then
off the
you
top
could.
power play, and then you could have
Yeah,
Kurashev,
I
Hall,
I see what you're saying.
you know,
I see what
somebody
you're saying.
else. Martinez,
Yeah, so then
if you really want him to quarterback it, I guess.
okay, so you have that's another thing I mentioned. Initially Jones and Vlasic were split up, but they actually put them back together towards like the end of the game yesterday, which I thought that's the right move. Those two should be together. I don't know if it's going to stay that way. It might be fluid throughout the games, but I like those two together. But yeah, you have Vlasic, Jones on the first unit, then you have Bedard, Tavo, Kurashev. Yeah, then you could bump down like Bertuzzi, Hall. Then all of a sudden you have Bertuzzi, Hall, and then yeah, I mean that's a much better second unit right there. If you had like a Reichel Athanasiou there as well, Dickinson, then Martinez and something like that in defense, like that's a much better looking unit.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think changing it up a little bit and spreading the love a little bit. Like they're trying to do with the 5-on-5 lines, right? Like they want, not to be so top heavy and, only put the really skilled guys with Bedard and leave the rest of the lineup to be playing with guys who might as well have their sticks upside down, right?
Yeah.
So it is interesting to me why, or how we're gonna try this differently. You know what I mean? Like what are the looks? How Luke Richardson does seem kind of like a throw the lines in a blender kind of guy sometimes.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
So
that's the thing. It changes so much from game to game. So I don't know if we should look too much in opening day. It's gonna look a lot different for Friday because I have to assume Reichel and FSU are going to be in the lineup, which they should. So that's going
Yeah.
to make things a lot different. It's going to get different looks. So I'm curious to see what it looks like. It already changed quite a bit. Like I've said in yesterday's game, it was quite a bit different from the first to the third period.
I would put both those guys on the power play, the second power play unit too. Reichel and
I agree.
FSU.
And that's where those guys can shine, right? I mean, that's their wheelhouse right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
those two
maybe
have
you can
good
put one of
chemistry
them on the
together.
first unit, and then you could bump, a Taylor Hall down to the second unit. But I don't even think
That's an
Taylor
option.
Hall would be a bad option on the first unit. I just think he needs to figure it out a little bit.
Yeah, you could see the rust in his game last night. It was pretty
Yeah.
rough, but I mean, it's game one. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, you saw the talent too, right? He just couldn't finish. He had a few looks. He had a good breakaway there in the third period. I mean, if he scores that breakaway, he tried to go 5-0, and that's boom. We go overtime. So, he had looks, but at the same time, you could see you could see the rust a bit. Yeah.
What are we feeling about Peter Mrazek?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, that wasn't the best opening game for him. And the thing is, he's so um, unpredictable from year to year, right? Like his first season, the Blackhawks was pretty rough. Team in front of him was pretty rough, but last year he was great. And so what we're going to get this year, is it going to be 22-23 Mrazek or 23-24? We don't know. If he could play the way he did last season, I think this team can make a lot of noise, as Lee said, but not his best game last night. Can't put it fully in him. I think there was some plays, I think, better more in the defense, like the second goal. That puck should have been out of the zone. I don't know what the hell Craig Smith was doing there. First goal, that's just a good shot. I think there's some tips. I think the third goal was just a good deflection. Or I've been unlucky. I think it went off Dickinson and then something, whatever. That's just bad luck. Fourth goal was empty netter, and the fifth one, that's late. It's like, who cares? The game's over. So, I mean, not his best game, but I wouldn't say it was bad either. I don't know, just kind of okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I would like to see some more out of him, but you're also getting to a point where you might be asking too much of Peter Mrazek, right?
I'm looking forward to when Brossoit's back, because I think that's going to make things very interesting. I think Brossoit can really challenge for that, that job. I think it'll be more of a 1A, 1B town, to be honest. I don't know if Brossoit's really going to be the backup per se. I think they'll kind of split them. I think on this Hawks team, I think that's probably ideally what you want out of this goalie situation. I mean, hopefully we'll have to see one game aside of him send down the Rockford, and then Brossoit's back around the same time as Artie's on Ice Hogs. If Brossoit can slot right in, I think he could do good. I mean, Brossoit was one of the better backups in the league last year, in front of a much better team, mind you, but I think he can be pretty good on this Hawks team. He hasn't really had the opportunity before in his career to kind of play more games than just being a backup, and I think he has an opportunity here, and I hope he seizes it. Yeah.
A lot of veterans in the Hawks lineup yesterday. A lot of
Yeah,
veterans.
too much. We need a younger lineup. We need a faster lineup in the Friday game.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be interesting to see how the Hawks change it up. I would also assume that Reichel and Athanasiou are both in the lineup too.
Yeah, I would have them on the third line. I'd probably drop McCabe to the third line. Then who would move up to the first line? Bedard and Turbine. I would have Kurashev up there with those guys, me personally, or Bertuzzi, because if you want to keep Kurashev as a 2C, then put Bertuzzi in the top line, Bedard and Tavo. I know they didn't do that great a couple preseason games, but it's preseason. You say you're not going to overreact to preseason, then why the hell are you having McCabe in the top line and dropping Bertuzzi and then Reichel scratched? Like, that seems like overreacting to the preseason. I know they weren't great in the preseason, Reichel and Athanasiou, but those guys should be in the lineup. There's no reason those guys should be scratched if they're healthy. So you got to give opportunities.
I think with the Hawks, like not having Frank Nazar on the roster and Oliver Moore still being in college right now, I think the reason why we're seeing Philip Kurashev at the second line center position right now is because it's almost like you feel bad if you're the Blackhawks fans, or you feel like you're doing a disservice to the organization if throughout a season like this, you're not also seeing what you have. And by that, I mean, like, can Philip Kurashev be a second line center, like a really good second line center in the National Hockey League? If you want my honest opinion, I don't think
you don't think so?
No.
Okay.
I think you'd rather have somebody else in that second line center spot, like a Frank Nazar kind of player. And then you'd rather have Kurashev develop into as much of a beast on the wings as he can be. Like, can this guy be like a William Nylander light kind of player?
That's fair. I think it's more of a stopgap too, right? Because like if it's not Kurashev, then who is the 2C? As much as I like Dickinson, I don't know if he's a 2C. I think he's more of a 3C.
Well, he's not. No. So I think
exactly.
That's the point. Is like if you did have Dickinson as your 2C, you'd be like, what are we doing here right now? Like, why aren't you giving somebody reps?
Nazar, exactly. It's just seeing what you got, right?
So
I understand
with Kurashev, it's like okay, well, you can't fault us too much because he's a young player and he's shown us a lot of promise, and we're going to try him at the second line center position. But I don't know if that's like, I don't know if they're trying that with the full knowledge or, I think they would like it to work, but I don't even think they fully believe that it'll work. I think they're just trying it to try anything at this point.
I will say though, I think Khrushchev had a pretty good game last night. I know he didn't have any results to show for it, but I think he was really snake bitten. I think Khrushchev, like I think before last season, he kind of was a natural center to be honest, but they moved him in the wing with Bedsy, and then we saw his game take off. So I think while I think he can be a center. I think like you said, he's probably better off on Bedsy's wing. I think that's where he can really flourish in the future. Too, probably more of a second line player than either Nazar or Moore as the second line center. But yeah, I think for now. It works. It's fine. But me
Like,
personally,
is
I'd
he a
probably rather.
40, 50 point guy too? Like, are you a 60, 70 point guy?
I
What
think
kind of guy are you?
if he's a 2C, he's probably 40, 50. But if he's on the wing with Bedsy, he can put up. I think he could put up 60, 70 plus points
Yeah.
on Bedard's wing easily.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. What else from yesterday's game stood out to you?
Let's see what else. Yeah, I mean, more just on like I'd say just the line combos. Like we gotta get these things figured out. Like it was just like you said, it was just kind of putting things in a blender. You have every period it looked different. So I would probably roll out some different combinations for the game on Friday. I think that's yeah. You drop down Mikheyev on that first line, and yeah, I think Bertuzzi with Bedard and Tavo that would work better. And yeah, I think that second line, yeah, Hall, Kurashev, I mean, that would work out decently. Maybe put Reichel with those guys. I don't know. You gotta give Reichel a shot, right? If you're scratching and putting him on bottom six, it's not gonna do anything for him, right? So I know that he's got to earn that spot. I get it, but we gotta give these guys chances with good talent. So I mean, hopefully we see some different combinations for Friday. I hope we see Vlasic and Jones together because that defense was brutal before that. But and yeah, and then hopefully we see more out of Martinez Brody. But I think they should be in a lower pair. I don't think they should be. That should be like I don't know, like a third pair. But and yeah, Murphy Allen keep them together. That's fine with me. Hopefully Kaiser's back soon because I think he has a lot of promise this season. I like what I saw from the end of last year. So yeah, I think he and Allen could be pretty good on the back end there in terms of young talent.
Yeah, some of these guys on the Hawks though just like beat it into a square.
There's just so much like there's just so much washed veterans, man. It's like I get it. I understand what we're looking for. This is a transitional year, a stopgap year while the young guys develop at Rockford. But man, I hope we see more out of guys like Pat Maroon and Craig Smith because that was brutal last night from those guys. I mean,
Do
I'm
you
like
though?
I've said it
Like,
before.
what can you expect out of those guys?
I mean, low expectations, but I mean, I think just being competent. I mean, last night wasn't even that. I
Yeah.
mean, just don't make mistakes, right? Don't don't be doing things like last night, like turning the puck over in the defensive zone. Like that's things that AHL players do, not NHL players. I don't know. I can't really excuse that. If you're gonna have guys like Slagger and Nazar down there, and you see shit like that, it's like I don't know. That's not great.
Yeah, it almost makes you question like why am I in the American Hockey League when I'm watching the big club right now and a lot of guys are getting away with things that I wasn't getting away with in training camp, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like I get it. I don't think being a reference a bad thing for Nazar, but I think he can absolutely be on this Blackhawks team. I think he'd absolutely be the 2C right now. And I know some people come at me for that, but I mean, we're a rebuilding team. Give the young guys a shot. I mean, that's what it should be about. I mean, we're having these veterans take up spots on this roster. It's like I get it, but I don't. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't fully agree with the prevailing opinion of everybody. That's like, oh yeah, these guys have to be in Rockford. I know I said that like it was the right decision, but to be honest, I don't fully believe that. I really don't.
The and
I think
I'm
Korchinski, I get it more than Nazar, I'd say. Sorry.
what I meant by the beating it into a square kind of thing, like I'm not even just like really talking about Pat Maroon and Craig Smith. I'm talking about like Tyler Bertuzzi and Ilya Mikheyev, like the guys that are actually like earning money that you'd like to produce for you. Like Bertuzzi just, has either the nicest touch and finish around the net in the National Hockey League or the absolute worst. And same goes for Mikheyev. I mean, Mikheyev just loves to miss the
Yeah,
net.
that,
Like,
that guy's the definition of can't finish. Holy.
yeah, like
Yeah, no.
he can't hit the net. If the net was twice as big as it was right now, he'd still miss the net.
That guy can't score in a soccer net, man.
Yeah. So
Yeah, no. I like his forechecking. I think they both have good qualities, right? But yeah, the finish isn't always there. But Bertuzzi, I think it can be. I mean, that's a guy I'd like to see more out of because I think he has a lot of potential in this team. I think he can be a great fit on that top line Bernard table, but we haven't seen it yet. But hopefully, we'll see that happen eventually. Taylor Hall too. Like I think the sky's the limit for what he can do this year, but we haven't seen it yet. So we'll see. I think if those guys can get going, this could be a much more exciting Blackhawks team. But that's a big if, right? There's a lot of ifs of this Blackhawks team.
Did you have any thoughts on Utah, like as a city, like the experience and the
I
whole
thought that
like
was a electric
ambiance
first
of it and
game.
all of it?
Yeah, no, I mean that place was jumping. I mean, I think the capacity is only like what 12,000 something, but it felt like 20,000. I think maybe the way that arena's constructed, like the noise reverberates off the walls like it did in the old Chicago Stadium back in the day. But I thought it was super loud in there, super electric. The fans were definitely really excited. The energy was there,
They
and
sold it out. It was sold out.
yeah, no, I mean, so first game, obviously, but so far, so good. I mean, I think that has a lot of potential there to be a very successful franchise that Arizona unfortunately wasn't. But yeah, I think first game, I think first impression should be good for Utah. I also found it interesting that they're using the Max Verstappen song as their goal song. I
I
thought I
didn't
was hearing
notice
things
that.
when I thought that was pretty funny. So
Could you
that was
hear the
pretty
goal
cool, man.
horn?
I didn't really hear it. I don't know. They need to work on that. Maybe it was too loud in there. It's just they couldn't really hear it.
I don't know that that was the case. I don't. So if you remember, I don't know if you remember this, but this is definitely like a deep cut hockey thing. But when Vegas started, they used a different goal horn for the first like 6 home games, I want to say that they did. And then they changed it to the goal horn that they have now. So I don't know if there's like another test goal horn in waiting right now for Utah, but I couldn't really hear it. I didn't
Yeah,
really.
I know. It was too quiet. You gotta make that louder. Yeah, no, yes, I could. Maybe the crowd was just that loud, but I don't know. They gotta work on that. But no, I think first game for Utah. I think come away with the 5-2 win. I mean, yeah, I could say they're a little lucky at times, but you know what? They got the good start, and I think good starts in hockey games tend to be rewarded more often than not. If you get that first couple goals, more often than not, you're gonna win the game. So Hawks gave it a good effort, tried to came back, came close, but
Dylan Guenther's
unfortunately
so
not
good.
close enough. Yes, I am so glad I got that guy in my fantasy team. I think he
Yeah.
can absolutely break out this year. I think some people may have questioned, giving him that contract, but first game so far, I mean, I don't know, that guy looks like he's on
Looks
track
good
to put
now.
up 60, 70 points this year, maybe more than that. He could put up, I don't know, 30, 40 goals this year. That could definitely be a franchise guy there. They got a lot of guys like that, a lot of talent there. I mean, Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz. Like, I don't know, I think this team could be a playoff team.
Logan Cooley was really
Yeah,
good yesterday too. Just like
yes, yeah.
confident carrying the puck and um, willing to make plays and willing to be creative and make making mistakes in the NHL is a good thing if you are making like an educated guess, right?
Mm.
You're oh, this is a higher percentage play. It might not work, but I'm going to give it a go because this is the National Hockey League, and I know the person I'm passing the puck to is a really good player as well, and right?
Yeah,
So
no. And sometimes it's better to make those mistakes at the
yeah,
NHL level than the minors, right?
yep,
So, no, I think in Cooley, that's a 2022 draft pick too. So, as our Nazar Korchinski, just throw that in there. But
yeah,
yeah, anyway.
yeah. I mean, Cooley was third overall, so
Hi, yeah.
yeah. But I thought they were really good, and then they tailed off, and the Hawks had a chance to get back into the game, and then they didn't really take advantage of it.
If they just could have scored up, they had 3 power plays. Score up one of them, that game goes to overtime. But unfortunately, we can't have that. But no, I think if that's something that they can get going, which say it was the same deal last year. That power play was asked all year, but then it came on strong towards the end of the year. So hopefully they can get that figured out earlier. And yeah, I think this team, if they can get that power play situated, like can definitely make some noise and make these games like interesting. But you gotta be able to score on the power play. Yeah.
Next Hawks games are Friday, Saturday.
Jets Oilers, right?
Jets Oilers back to back. So we'll talk about both of those games on Friday. Maybe we'll even get somebody in from Winnipeg or Edmonton media. Maybe we bring in a guest for the turn my flashlight on. Bring a guest on Chicago Hockey Radio. Maybe we'll start
That'd be
doing
nice.
that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
We'll tee up the Oilers and the Jets for everybody. Also, I know I said this on the post game show too, but the Jason Dickinson hit on Ian Cole. I don't know if you went back and like saw that again or something, but he blew him up. That was a fun way to end the hockey game, especially
Yeah,
when
no,
the
for
Hawks were
sure.
losing.
You always
But
want to end a game like something like that, spark energy, just to kind of give yourself momentum going into the
yeah,
locker room afterwards, something to carry over in the next game. And I like the way they fought this game. I like the energy they showed, the passion. I mean, that was something we didn't always see. I mentioned this yesterday, something we didn't always see on last year's team. So they keep showing that. I think this team has a lot of potential for sure. I mean, even 5-2 loss, but I'm not upset with how the game went. If the game ended up the first period, I would have been pissed. But I think second period onwards, very happy with how we looked, honestly.
All right, and just like that, that's it for our Chicago Blackhawks hour. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will take it national and talk about the entire NHL and the 5 games tonight. Keep it here. NHL Hour, Chicago Hockey Radio. Got to keep the mics on around here. NHL Hour, Chicago Hockey Radio. 5 games in the NHL tonight. 2 other ones that we didn't talk about last night, including the St. Louis Blues beating the Seattle Kraken yesterday 3-2. Jessica Campbell becoming the first female assistant coach or head coach in NHL history. That was a pretty cool moment. I don't know what you thought about that, Justin.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, good for her. Yeah, that's great. Good to see her, getting a position like that. That's hopefully that'll pave the way for more in the future. No, good to see that for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I wonder what it's like in the locker room, honestly, like how they are.
Dynamic works because that is different. Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely different than anything we've ever seen in the NHL. I have no reason to believe that the players wouldn't be anything but super open to it, and receptive to what she's trying to coach and teach and say and get them to buy into in order to win more hockey games. But
Yeah, I mean they're professionals. I'm sure it's like they just treat like any other coach. It's not any different. So yeah, and clearly she's. I mean, just based on credentials, I mean she's clearly qualified. So for all those comments I see saying, "Oh, she's just getting this because she's a woman," like that's a bunch of
no,
nonsense. I think she's much more qualified than a lot of male people in that position. So no, very
yeah,
good for her.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I think she was just really highly regarded by Dan Bilesman too. So
yeah.
then once Bilesman got the gig with the big club, then it became a pretty natural transition to assume that she was going to step up with the Kraken.
Mhm.
Do you think we'll ever get a full-time female NHL head coach one day?
One day potentially. I don't know if that day's anytime soon, but I think it's maybe a lot closer now after this. But I mean, I definitely see more like associate assistant positions, but head coach, I don't know. We might be a ways away from that yet, but one day potentially I could see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to like really put the hammer down when you're a head coach and get
Yeah,
these
that's
grown
yeah.
men to buy in and really pay attention and heed what you say and listen almost. You know what I mean? Like if you're
hmm
even things like curfew and doing they have to respect you to the point. Not saying that Jessica Campbell doesn't have that respect at all, but um it's hard to
Yeah,
put your foot.
just for that locker
A
room
lot of men
dynamic.
don't have that
Yeah.
respect. Like it's very easy
Yeah.
for a male head coach to lose the locker room, right?
Yeah, it may happen to anybody, right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, for sure.
So I don't know, but congrats to her. I thought that was a really cool
Yeah,
moment.
absolutely. Yeah.
Carter Verhaeghe signs an extension. Then we'll get to the goalies here in a moment. But I wanted to start with Carter Verhaeghe. 8 years, $7 million per season. The Panthers lock up another part of their Stanley Cup winning core. They got Sam Reinhart done earlier this summer, right before he hit the UFA market. They got Gustav Forsling done right before they went into the playoffs last year. So everybody in Florida is locked up unless you are Aaron Ekblad right now,
Hmm.
who is still due a new contract come July 1st, 2025. He will be a UFA. So
That team
um,
looking dangerous, man. I mean, opening game, yeah, but
they look
man, I mean
so
that
good
that
yesterday.
that looks like a team that can go back to back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, keep that core together. That's huge for them. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. Not every team's able to do that, but the fact they've been able to do that, that speaks volumes to Bill Zito and that team. They're definitely one of the strongest, I think, management teams in the league. So no, I mean Panthers, great opening day. Good to see him raise that banner and all that. It was really cool. But new season, and it looks like the same Panthers team.
Do you think any of these contracts are going to age poorly for them, like the Verhage one or the Forsling one or the Reinhardt
Oh,
one? Or
yeah, I mean Reinhardt, I mean he definitely got the bag, right? But after a 57 goal season, that's to be expected. But
that
can he
goal
put
he
up that
scored
type?
yesterday was so sick too.
Yeah, can he put up that production again is the question. I mean, I think he's a great player, but I don't know, maybe more of a 40 goal guy. I don't know if he's going to put up 50 again. It's possible. I mean, that power play is so good there. It's very possible he could do it again, but I don't know. That's a big ask. But I think for Hagee, 8 by 7, that seems pretty fair to me. I mean, that seems pretty solid. Forsling, I think he's a guy who's just scratched the surface of what he can do. So like that one, we'll see. I mean, it's a lot of ifs, but no, I think so far. I mean, I think the contracts are pretty fair for the most part. And I mean, today they look good, but we don't know in the future. But I think no, they're doing a solid job managing the situation over there for sure.
The Sergei Bobrovsky contract only has this season and next season on it, and then
Okay,
he
so
is also a
that's
UFA
great for
too.
them. Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
is. I'm
for
sure they
sure.
hope that Spencer Knight is ready to take the reins fully by
Yeah,
that point.
that's the question, right? I mean, he's not even a backup, or is he the backup of
He
them
is
right
not the
now?
backup. No,
He's
it's Chris
not. No,
Drieger.
I didn't think so. Yeah, That's the question, right? That's a guy, man. A few years ago, he was one of the biggest prospects, man. I remember watching him in the juniors for USA, and that guy was a big part of why they won gold that year. So definitely one of the hotter goalie prospects, but it's definitely kind of dropped off. I know he's had some issues these past few years he's been dealing with, but if he could get his game figured out, I mean, that would be huge for them. But that's again a big if. But they could definitely use that. I mean, Bobrovsky's deal, expiring in a year or two. I mean, who knows how much longer he'll be there if he is. So that's the question, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I will say about Carter Verhaeghe though, he has absolutely turned into one of the most clutch players in the
Yes.
National Hockey League right now. I know clutch is a thing that you can't really measure and you can't really.
Especially come playoff time.
Yeah.
That guy shows up in the playoffs, win big moments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess you could put a number on it when it comes to like overtime winners in the playoffs and like game
he has as
tying
much as
goals
Patrick
and
Kane. I
stuff like
remember I
that.
saw a
Yeah.
graphic. I saw a graphic showing overtime winners in the playoffs. He had five and could tie Patrick Kane. Like that's high praise. I mean, that just shows how good he is come playoff time. So yeah.
Yeah.
I know some people might look at that contract and think it's not worth it, but I think that type of value you bring, I think you can't really put a price on that. Come playoff time.
So I'm looking at this article now, and this article was written by Michael Russo, May 10th, 2024. So I guess kind of in the thick of the playoffs a little bit, like as they were just getting going a little bit. This may be the first or second round this was written. Um, Playoff overtime goals. You have Joe Sakic, first all time, with 8 goals in 172 playoff
Wow.
games. Number 2 is Maurice Richard with 6 playoff overtime goals in 132 games. Carter Verhaeghe is tied at 5 with Patrick Kane, Corey Perry, and Glenn Anderson. Now, I think
Damn.
these numbers might be a little fudged now because this was written in the middle of the playoffs and not
Yeah.
at the end. But at the time of this writing, when this article was written, Carter Verhaeghe had played in 52 Stanley Cup playoff games. Patrick Kane was the next least at 143. And then Perry, obviously, at
That's
202
the
and Glenn
thing,
Anderson
right? I
at
mean, he
225.
doesn't have a lot to go off of. He has effectively 2 finals runs and like not much beyond that. So that's wild that he's done that in just basically 2 years, pretty much.
That's a guy that like came up from the East Coast League too. Like really
Yeah,
did it the hard way.
undrafted. Yeah, I mean, he was kicked
He
out
was
of that
drafted by the Maple Leafs.
Oh, my bad. Okay. But he was a really low draft pick, right? Not much
Yeah.
of a prospect. And yeah, he was kicked off of that Tampa team, that won those cups. He was kind of like a small, like kind of bench guy. Wasn't really a part of those teams. And then goes across to another team in Florida and becomes one of the main players. So props to him. Definitely a fun career to look at.
Where do you put the Panthers when it comes to Stanley Cup contenders? Like, are they number 1 on your list right now or 2?
I hate to go along with what everybody else is saying, but
Florida,
I
Edmonton.
feel like it's got to be Oilers one right now.
Okay.
I look at that team. I think they lost a little less. I mean, I don't think the losses for the Florida's that big of a deal. I think they gained a lot too. I think they're pretty much as good as they were last year. But I think Edmonton got even better, right? They added Arvidsson, they added Skinner. I like that. The defense, I think, has gotten better. It's still a little in some areas. I think it's one area, but it's better. Skinner and net, good enough. I mean, I think that's a team that doesn't really have much weaknesses right now, and they have the depth they have now. And that was an area they used to struggling, but you look at that team now, it's like I struggle to see a weak point. So I think they got to be the favorites, and especially since they lost it last year in the finals. Well, who lost in the finals the year before that? Florida won last year, so I could definitely see Edmonton doing that same pattern. I hate to go along with everybody else, but I'd say them one. I'd say maybe Florida two, and then I don't know, maybe like Dallas third or something. I guess just throw it all, just throw in all the conference final teams. I guess I don't know. I hate to be boring, but that's the way I see it right now.
Do you want to hear a funny Panthers tweet? So this is from Tim Reynolds. Panthers so far this week handed out championship rings, sold out their season ticket inventory, raised the Stanley Cup banner, found a gentleman named Stanley to be the military hero among us on banner night, and signed Carter Verhaeghe and beat Boston.
It's a pretty busy day.
That's quite a good week if you're the Florida
very
Panthers
productive.
so far, and it's only Wednesday now. So
good start for them.
Yeah. No, I like the Verhaeghe signing. I did question the term a little bit, not question it, but just say, hey, like,
is it 8 years by 7 or is it 7 by 8?
8 years by $7 million.
Okay, that is interesting.
Which is such a low number too. Like I feel like if Verhaeghe hit the open market, he'd get 7.5 at least.
Oh yeah, the term is great for them. Yeah, but I could see what you mean by 8 years. I mean, how old's he going to be that contract?
37.
Yeah, well, might be okay, but it'll definitely towards the end of it might not. But I think right now, I think that's going to look great. I mean, I think he could produce much better than
right now.
7 million, and he's in his prime. So I think right now it's a great contract for them. I think that's a later problem. And plus, the cap's going to go up. It's probably not going to matter. Yeah, like towards the end of later years of that contract, it's probably going to be insignificant at that point. So yeah.
Yeah, that article about Carter Verhaeghe was called Mr. Clutch, how Carter Verhaeghe's long road to the Panthers taught him not to fear the moment. I thought that was a really good article title. Yeah, Linus Ullmark also signs with the Ottawa Senators. He gets the Swayman AAV, albeit not the term. It is only 4 years and not 8.
That's pretty funny. They got pretty much the same term, Ullmark and Swayman, even after the breakup.
You mean the same AAV or?
Same AAV, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was the exact same AAV, 8.25.
That's right. Yeah, it was the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So he probably went to the Senators and said, all right, like, here's the number now. Like,
whatever Swayman is, you better give that to me. Because we're basically as good. Yeah.
I mean, if you were the Senators, you really had no argument to give him less than
No,
Swayman.
I mean, I think he's going to be he's the X factor for that Senators team, right? If they make the playoffs this year, I think it's going to be in large part due to him. He'll take that team as far as the Senators will go as far as Ullmark takes them this year. Yeah.
I agree with that, first of all.
Yeah. I hope to see it too. Like that team's been out in the playoffs since 2017. Ever since Chris Kunitz had that overtime winner, it's like that put that franchise in shambles. But I like to see the Senators back in the playoffs. They're always a fun kind of underdog team to root for. So I like to see it.
The the term on it was probably just like, Swayman gets the number figured out, really. Like that Swayman contract, he knew it. That's why I think this became more
knew it
of a
affect the market. Yeah,
it affects the market 1,000%. Now,
I mean, see with the Doc Court extension too, right?
yeah. I mean, that's a crazy one. And then you have like the whole Igor thing. I mean, today's like goalie.
How about that? Igor Shesterkin rejecting 11. That would make him the highest paid goalie in hockey, and he rejects it.
In hockey history.
In history, yeah. And I think we were talking about what it would look like. I think I said it'd be somewhere in the 12 range. So maybe that's what he's thinking too. Yeah, so he's thinking for another $1 million or so. So yeah, that could be another Swayman situation. Man, what is it with goalies and drama of contracts?
But
man?
I think
we just finished up one, and now we're going into this. And man, do they need Shesterkin, man? They better.
I think the Senators would have signed that contract for whatever term. Like I think even the Senators may have been like, hey, like, this is your price now. This is 8.25. Like, you tell us how many years. And Ullmark was probably like, all right, I'll take 4.
And they got plenty of cap room, so that wasn't an issue for them like it was with Bruins. Yeah.
Do you think there would have been like a max term offer there available for Ullmark, or do you think maybe you didn't want to?
No, I think his situation's different, right? Like he's not. Yeah, it'd probably be like I wasn't expecting like an 8-year or whatever. No,
I was a bit surprised it was 4 though.
Could be a bit more than that, you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I would have tried to go a little longer on the term if I were Ullmark, like maybe see if I could get 5 or 6 years out of it.
Yeah, possible. And maybe just doesn't know if this Ottawa's team's going to go right, and maybe just want to buy himself if it doesn't work out. Yeah. I
think Ottawa's a really interesting team this year. Like
what? I think I got a lot of potential, but I feel like we've been saying that too. Where it's like I feel like every year the model is in like the always have them in the playoffs and they don't make it. So, but maybe this year if Ullmark and the goalie situation solved, hopefully it'll be different. But we'll see.
Yeah, you'd have to think between Ullmark and another year of Jake Sanderson and Shane Pinto, like being a full attendant in training camp and ready to start the season.
They need health, man. Like they've always had somebody in that offense out. Like Norris is always hurt, or somebody else
Batherson or something like
that. Batherson, yeah. Like they need that. I need that squad to be healthy. I think Stützle needs to have a better season, right? I think to Chuck, he's going to show up. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then the other goaltending extension that we got was the Joey Daccord one. I know you mentioned that a little bit, but
5x5.
5x5 for Joey Daccord. $25 million.
Broke this market, man.
Yeah.
He was good for them last year, but I don't know about this. What do you think?
I said it on the morning show. I think it's a fine line. Goaltending is a fine line in the NHL of being elite and being not elite, and I think Joey Daccord, as good of a season as he had last year, 917 save percentage is really good on a team that let up a lot of offensive chances.
Yeah.
Joey Daccord is dancing on the line of, am I elite or am I, a replacement level NHL puck stopper, right?
I see him. I kind of put him in the same lanes as like a Peter Mrazek, like solid goaltender, but not elite. Yeah, that's why I see him.
I think that's a great comparison, and I don't think anybody's giving Peter Mrazek 5x5.
No. Yeah.
So, and then I wonder, like, the whole Seattle thing. We second time we mentioned Chris Driedger on the show, but he was picked up by Seattle in the expansion draft from Florida, and then subsequently signed to like a 3 times 3.5, I think it was. and then he spent most of that contract in the American Hockey League.
Yeah, that's a thing, right? Yeah.
So I do have cause for concern with Seattle, especially when you have like all these exciting young players like Beniers, and I know you got Beniers locked up for 7 years, but if Shane Wright is the player you hope he's going to be, and then is due an extension at some point, all that money is going to be quickly eaten up. I would say.
That's interesting. They should have won that game last night. They're up 2-0. They were dominating that game. I went to the gym to work out, and then I finished it up. And I see they lose 3-2. Like, what the hell happened?
Well, you know what happened was it was all of a sudden it was like 5.
Was it like 3 goals in 2 minutes? Or something?
Yeah, it was like 5 minutes of really bad hockey from the Kraken after they were dummying the St. Louis Blue. Like St. Louis just looked like they didn't show up to the hockey game for the first part of it, and then they looked like the best team in the NHL for 5 minutes there, and it was like, oh my god, like. Yeah,
it was like us if we finished the deal. Yeah,
yeah,
that's funny.
So
and then that Bruins Panthers game, that was something.
Yeah, that was something. I those two teams have played a lot the last couple of seasons.
Felt like a playoff game.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. It did. All the game, even the Utah-Chicago one, I will say.
That had that atmosphere, yeah.
Yeah,
it was electric.
People were definitely really into it. It wasn't like a Tuesday night in November, like Tuesday night.
It had like a college game day feel, so I think the announcers kind of mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah. I won't lie. I didn't love the ESPN broadcast team last night. Didn't love it. Didn't hate it. Didn't hate it. PK's great. I love PK. That was about it.
I think I'm blanking.
Ray was great.
Ferraro was always great. I do think I forget the lead guy. What was the lead color guy's name? Or not the color guy, the main play-by-play. Yeah, he was okay.
It wasn't John Forslund last night.
I like Forslund. I wish it was him. I think he was better.
Is Raven there? He might not be.
I am here, but I can.
Can you see who the play-by-play guy was last night for ESPN?
I thought he was okay. I thought he was decent. To be
he
honest.
was okay.
He had energy. Unlike Sean McDonough, always puts you to sleep during the playoffs. Like this guy actually had some energy.
Sean
I thought was pretty good. Oh, you like McDonough? I
like McDonough. I like John Forslund. I like
Forslund. I love Forslund.
A TNT guy.
That's hockey, baby. I love that. I love that phrase. That's great. I know he's one of the guys the Hawks were looking at when to replace Foley. I wish we would have got him, but so Kraken got a good one there.
Yeah, they definitely did get a good one there. Yeah. Oh, last Kraken note. They named Jordan Eberle captain.
That's right.
So now every NHL team is a captain too.
Yeah. No vacancies this year. When was the last time that happened? It's been a while.
Yeah, that is cool.
That's cool. Yeah, he's definitely worthy. I mean, he's a guy who's been around, leader, especially on the Kraken team. So I think you can't really complain about that choice at all. That's good for them.
I love Jordan Eberle. I think he's just such a heart and soul, wear it on your sleeve kind of guy. Was electric in his early days in the NHL and is still that guy. It's just he hasn't needed to be that guy on any of the teams he played on. I think when the Islanders traded for him, I think that was a big, like, hey, you're gonna come in and be this like way better offensive winger than we've had here in a long time. And it was like, no, I'm just Jordan Eberle.
Yeah, he was electric in his early days in Edmonton. Even before that, I always think of that World Juniors goal he had in Canada. That was sick. But he was definitely always an exciting player. He could still get the job done. So, yeah, I think that Kraken team, that'll be an interesting one to watch this year. I hope they're a playoff team because I think they can make some noise if they get there. Yeah.
Talk about iconic goal calls. That the Jordan Eberle with 2 seconds left on the clock. Can you believe it? Who is that? That's Gord Miller that does that call.
That's right. I always love listening to him during World Juniors season. That's one of my favorite times of the year. Yeah.
But yes, every team in the National Hockey League has a captain, and they have their goalie signed up. So last thing on the goaltending, although there are a couple other small bits of goaltending news we'll get to, but with the Kraken, and then we'll move away from Seattle and all this stuff, all the extensions. Although it was a great day for extensions around the NHL. I just wish they had done this like Monday or something when we were like,
what is with these extensions like happening like right as the season's starting? Like, what is up with that? That's funny.
But you're gonna be with there's 2 seasons left on the Philip Grubauer contract, and you're gonna be paying now 2 seasons of almost $11 million for Decord and Grubauer.
I'd be playing him more than Grubauer.
Well, they're making about the same though, so you'd argue that they're gonna play about the same, which is maybe
probably yeah. I just think he's a stronger goaltender of the two. I think Grubauer's past his best days at this point.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Joseph Wall is also out while we're on the
Yeah, I
goalie.
saw that. How
Joseph,
long's he out?
undetermined timeline,
Oh, okay.
said to be a lower body injury, but it appears as if Anthony Stolars will start between the pipes tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs as they open up their
Oh boy.
season against the Montreal Canadiens at the Bell Center tonight.
Oh, that'll be a
Three
barn
all
burner.
Canadian matchups. Three all Canadian matchups
Yeah, all
amongst
the
the five
games today.
games.
There's not a single miss in the games today. This is
Yeah.
great. Got Jets, Oilers, Flames, Canucks. I mean, all three of these are must watches. Even the non-Canadian games, Rangers, Pens, Abs, Golden Knights.
What
These
do you think
matchups are
about the
fire
Avs?
tonight.
What do you think about the Avs Golden Knights game tonight?
I think the Avalanche. I hope they take that one, but I think that could be definitely a close one for sure. But I'd take the Avalanche in that one personally. How about you?
Um, no, I'm looking for certain things, like I want to see how I want to see how goaltending honestly looks for both teams, on a
Yeah.
day of goaltending. I would like to see how both those teams goaltending holds up. Is it even going to be, I would assume it's Aiden Hill tonight in net for
Yeah,
Vegas.
you would think so. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and then Georgiev also for Colorado. Colorado I
Oof.
think has some young guys making the team too, like Cal Ritchie and Ivan I think made the team, and
Nice.
so they've got some young players I'm interested in. And then Tomas Hertl, like how does Tomas Hertl look for Vegas tonight? And
Yeah.
what is that fit? Like I won't lie, when the trade happened, when they went to the playoffs last year, I thought the fit for Tomas Hertl in Vegas was kind of awkward.
Yeah, I remember when I saw that like trade. I was like, "Oh shit!" Like here we go, Vegas. Vegas is
Vegas
going to be
again.
back. Yeah, but no, it didn't happen. They got eliminated round one. But yeah, that wasn't as seamless of a fit. I would agree with that statement. So maybe it fits in better now.
At what
Yeah.
point is like we're just going to add the best player available via trade right now?
How long does that work
Yeah,
out? I
how
mean,
long does that
that's
work
for their
before you're
entire
just like,
existence. That's what they've been doing. And they're never bringing any pieces. They're never like developing any players. It's just we'll just pick guys up at the trade deadline and the free agency. It's like I feel like that can only go on for so long, right? Maybe this is the year that finally starts to show its cons. I mean, I think a lot of people have had Vegas kind of as a team that could miss the playoffs this year. I don't know. I think they're still a playoff team. I think there's too much talent for them to miss, but I mean, I think losing a guy like Marchessault can definitely hit them harder than people maybe think for sure.
what's your game of the night tonight?
Game of the night. Let's see. I think it's got to be Leafs Canadians, especially. I know they had
Really?
some
Okay.
drama.
Yeah, yeah.
They had some drama in the preseason too. I mean, that's the best. I think that's the best rivalry in hockey. So I always love seeing them start. It seems like they always start the season off. That's like the first game for those guys, at least most of the time. So no, I look forward to that one for sure. I say that's what I'm most looking forward to.
Rucker McGroarty is also going to make his NHL debut tonight for the Pittsburgh
Oh,
Penguins.
that's right. Yeah.
Ooh. This is news while we're on the Penguins right here. This is just popping up on my thing. Malkin says he won't retire at the end of his contract if the Penguins fail to make the playoffs.
Oh,
That is from
okay.
The Athletic. The quote is, quote, I love the playoffs so much and I love our fans so much. I need to feel it again. I couldn't leave if I never play in the playoffs again. Not until then.
Oh, so it's almost like a reverse thing where it's like actually gives them more motivation to continue. That's interesting.
Are you a big Rucker McGroarty guy? Have you seen a lot of tape of this kid play?
Oh yeah, no, I like his game. I mean, I know some of his off-ice attributes. Who knows? But he's confident himself. For sure. You see that. I think you saw that in the World Juniors at the U.S. So no, I like that guy's game. He's a dog on the ice. And I think that's a big X factor for the Pens. Like I'm not sold on that team. I think a lot of people aren't. But if he emerges and he on that top six and has like a Calder-esque season,
Yeah.
like that could get them back in the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll
They're
see. I
starting him
think.
on the third line.
Oh, okay.
And
I
I'd
would
be
have
so hard pressed if I was Mike Sullivan to not just play my most
I'd just
tantalizing prospect next to Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, I would just throw him. Like, just why not?
Why
Like,
not?
Yeah, like
What are you
come on,
waiting
like
for?
be creative here. I mean, what are we doing?
What are
So
you waiting for?
Who's he playing with in that third line?
I don't know. I could give it to you in 2 seconds here, but I don't know how you don't. It's Lars Eller and Jesse Puljujarvi.
Oh, what are we doing here?
You know what?
I mean,
And then you got
yeah.
Beauvillier up on the top. Anthony Beauvillier up on the
Okay,
top
that is
line.
ridiculous. That guy was a ghost for the Blackhawks last year, and I don't know what the hell he's doing. And then Drew O'Connor. I mean, I don't know. Like, what are we doing here? Get Gordy up there. I don't know what they're doing. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also interesting to see how Michael Bunting does this season next to a player like Evgeny Malkin.
Malkin. Yeah.
I think he might bring a little more juice back into Malkin's game. So
Yeah, I think Malkin can have a better. I know it wasn't the season he wanted last year, but I think he's still got a lot in his game. He could definitely have a bounce back if he's a point per game player too. Like Crosby's going to show up. He's going to be a 90-point player again. I wouldn't be surprised if he was. If he can even do better than that. So if that's the case, those two are firing all cylinders. McGrory has a great season. I think get more out of Carlson this year, be big as well. Like that could be huge for them.
Calgary Flames also taking on the Vancouver Canucks. Any
Ooh.
thoughts on Vancouver? No Dakota
Oh,
Joshua.
Demko's out for like a
Demko,
week, a
yeah.
month, right? Yeah.
I think it might be longer than that. I don't know.
Really? Okay. I thought it said like him
You
and
might be
Joshua
more right on that.
had
Yeah.
the same term, but with Demko, his situation's a bit different, right? Because it's like when he gets back, like is his situation even fully resolved? I think we've talked about this a lot. With his situation's a bit different, like he's got to deal with it or whatever. But no, I mean, I think that's probably better than I would expect. I was thinking he'd be out for longer, so I guess that's not that that's good news for them, but I wouldn't say it's horrible news. But no, in terms of the Canucks, it's like how does Shelovs look as a starter for like what's going to be at least this first part of the season? It'll be big for them, right? For the Canucks. But I think, yeah, Flames, you got to expect they take that matchup. I have no expectations of the Flames this year. I think they're going to be a bottom five team. I think it's tank season for them, but we'll see. I think that could definitely be an interesting one for sure.
I agree. And then also the Edmonton Oilers will host the Winnipeg Jets, reigning Stanley Cup finalists. I don't know that I might have like fed into this narrative a little bit too. But the downfall of the Winnipeg Jets, I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. I think the fit of Sean Monahan was really good there, and then they lost him. They lost a couple other pieces too, that are escaping me right now. But
Brossois.
Brossois, yeah. They lost Brendan Dillon on the back end too. I know a lot of people are lamenting that loss from them, and they also lost Nate Schmidt too to the Florida Panthers. So I don't know that I'm buying into the downfall of the Winnipeg Jets as much as everybody else. I think Hellebuck is still going to be Hellebuck, and they're going to run him into the ground by playing him 65 games, and then he won't be ready for the playoffs. But I don't know that this is as bad of a Winnipeg Jets team as we're talking about. And then the Oilers too. You mentioned it. I think that's my Stanley Cup pick is the Oilers over the Florida Panthers.
I hate to be boring, but yeah,
Me
it'll
too.
be mine too right now.
Me
Yeah.
too. But I like having a higher chance of being right. Although now the final is going to be like Ottawa against Vancouver or something in the final.
I'd take that.
I would take that as well.
Oh, it's two Canadian teams though. I don't know. We gotta keep these cups away from Canada.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
All right. That'll do it for the show.
Do I do quick predictions for the games? I'll say
Yeah. What do you got? Anything
I'll say
suiting
that
your fancy?
I'll say the Habs surprise the Leafs today and take that one. Rangers
Ooh.
Pens. I'll say Rangers take that one. Jets Oilers. Yeah, Oilers take that one. Flames Canucks. Avalanche Golden Knights. I'll say Avalanche. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I will take Leafs, Penguins, Oilers, Canucks, Golden Knights.
All right.
Every home team but the Maple Leafs will win tonight.
That
All
sounds
right,
about right.
that's going to do it for NHL Hour of Chicago Hockey Radio. Thanks to everybody for staying aboard. We will be back Friday afternoon with Lee and live on YouTube. And then we will also be back Friday night, late live on YouTube for post-game for Chicago against Winnipeg. And then back Saturday too with Chicago against the Edmonton Oilers. So full packed day. Hockey is back in full swing. Like we said, 5 games tonight, 9 games tomorrow on Thursday. So enjoy it all. We will be back here Friday. And peace out, everybody. Chicago Hockey Radio. Subscribe.